Hey, look, we got somebody in here that he feels the same way. He talks to us daily. He is a Baltimore Ravens fan and a Washington Commanders fan, also / Washington Redskins fan. And we got to bring in our guy because he's got questions, he's got concerns, and hey, at the end of the day, this guy knows what he's talking about. Our guy, Mr. Nathan Snell. What up, Nate?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, welcome.
I'll be the first to admit, now I'm not right on everything, and I'm learning to take accountability on that. But I do appreciate the comment, Sean.
Well, you know what you are right on? Welcome to the Serengeti.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know what that means, but I was going to say that.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that know, that's what our buddy Nathan messaged us like almost every day. And we were still trying to figure it out, but I'm just going to say it, all right?
All you got to do is just Google Monty Brown, TNA.
All right.
That's it.
All right. This guy. Nathan, man, yes, oh my goodness. So you've been watching with us. You've been talking with us. You've seen all the games that we've had, and there's a number of issues, obviously, that we've been addressing: injuries, coaching, and just a lack of effort. But there's also a number of other issues that address them. And one of the ones that you were mentioning to us, something that we know is a glaring hole, our O-line.
Definitely.
We have O-line issues, Nate. And what in your mind, what do you think, man?
Well, I would have thought that I just saw some growth, especially last year. I understand they had the injuries, but I thought some guys were taking a step forward. I'd say the only one that looked decent enough was probably Sam Kasimi. But other than that, the offensive line was just terrible. They did, like, if you watched Sam Howell, God bless him, he got the ball out quickly, and he had to kind of make up for the offensive line's mistakes. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I think he's gotten sacked 29 times so far this season, if I'm saying that stat correctly. Like, he's on pace to get sacked almost by the end of the year, almost like damn near 50, 60 times, because this
higher, 100,
yeah. Because it's just and I don't know if that is the scheme, because we can obviously still see Eric's offensive schemes still, the guys are still adjusting to. It's kind of almost, I see some similarities with Baltimore in a sense. Like, guys are still adjusting to this new system.
Yeah.
And particularly the offensive line, they're not making Sam Howell's job they're not making Sam's job any easier, because the way we're going at this rate, we're going to ruin him before the year's over.
Well, Nate, let me ask you this. Where does the fault lie in that? Does the fault lie in Ron or the GM and all that? Because Quan Martin, we talked about Quan Martin, who was a second round pick. Mm-hmm. The pick that was picked after him by Tampa Bay was Cody Mauch. Cody Mauch he can play any position on that line, and even if we needed depth, he's somebody that can step right in when we need him. So where do we lay the blame with this?
I think it's one. I kind of look at the players. But I look at coaching. Got to hold the offensive line coach and Eric too. Eric takes a little bit of accountability on that as well. But front office too, scouting. Scouting to me, I think, is a pivotal piece when you're trying to build a team. And some of these draft picks, I'm not gonna lie, they have been definitely misses in terms of development. Like, sure, I get it. Injuries are a part of the game. Things happen, but I would have thought by at least game 3-4, we would have seen some adjustments to offensive line. Maybe I would suggest some guys getting benched. But to answer your question, I think it falls on coaching, but it does fall on front office.
Absolutely. That I was thinking as you're talking about this here with the offensive line, it's like, and you're mentioning who's at fault, and it's kind of a little bit of a collection right now. Mm-hmm. But Eric Bieniemy brought in a guy from Kansas City.
Yes.
To be the starting right tackle. It seems like they've done something right by moving Sam Cosmi into right guard. He seems to be thriving there, But Andrew Wiley signed like the minute the free agent clock at the time opened up, which and he's also only signed for $8 million a year, where right tackle money, the better ones, the elite ones, is about double that. So the fact that we went bargain hunting, it's like, wait a minute, we praised it. I praised it in the offseason by saying the enemy knows something. He knows who he's bringing in. But Wiley has struggled. He leads the team in sacks given up. The other guy that is Sadiq Charles. I actually thought he was doing well this year. Come to find out, he's second on the team, almost maybe even tied with Wiley in the amount of sacks given up. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting here going, these are your two additions, two of your three additions to the offensive line with a rookie quarterback. And these are the guys you brought in for the second year in a row. We did this with Norwell and Trey Turner last year. The changes we made on the offensive line were cheap and ineffective.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
I was thinking after I said that, I'm like, that's more of a statement.
Well,
so,
well, let me just say this real quick. Let me give you the PFF rating grades just for the Eagle game, for example. Charles Leno had the best one out of Nick Gates, Sam Cosmi, C. Charles, Andrew Wiley. That's pretty mediocre in a sense. If Charles Leno was the only one that had a decent PFF grade. So I really do think some adjustments do need to be made to the line. I do think you need to bench some guys. I don't think it's fair to throw Chris Paul, a rookie, out there into the fire. I just think some guys and things have to be adjusted.
But that goes to your point of blaming the scouting department, saying what changes can be made. You've got Chris Paul, who was a 7th round pick last year, is an option, and you got a 3rd round draft pick this year as an option, and you got Cornelius Lucas, who has proven that he is a good stopgap when someone gets hurt, but there's nothing much more we can do at this point.
Nothing more you can do. This is just what you have to work with.
So then I think you got to look into the scheme. And it looked like EB did that against the Eagles. There was a lot of quick game. They used a lot of screens to reduce the pass rush, to kind of take away that. But if you also notice against the Bears, the only time the offense started to move the ball is when they said, F it, we're no longer running the ball. And we ran like 55 straight passes, So it's like that is not sustainable either. So where's the happy medium? Because our running game stinks.
So can I ask? If I may ask you both a question, because we talked about this privately. You stated that Thursday's loss to the Bears, you weren't buying fatigue. In other words, you were saying they just didn't effort. Mm-hmm. When you look at Washington these first 5 games, there are slow starts. How do you think? Do you feel like there is a bit of micromanagement on, particularly on the offensive side, because both sides of the ball are just slow starts. But particularly on the offensive side, do you think there's micromanagement on Eric?
It's hard to tell. It worries me from a coaching standpoint, from the fact that we are having to play play catch up, or we look lethargic out there. Yeah, no, I mean, I actually, Sean, I totally forgot about this conversation. I thought you and me were actually going to get to go back and forth for once on the show in disagreement, because I just felt like I just couldn't blame tiredness but the fact that a game plan's not working, the fact that players aren't executing is definitely a concern. One of the things Sean and I talked about offline a couple weeks ago was, with this offensive line, and to your point there, Nathan, about the, why are they coming off to slow starts, is sometimes it only takes one mistake to ruin the entire drive. Like the offensive line could have 3 or 4 great sequences and plays, and then one guy gets beat, Sam Howell gets sacked, and it's now 2nd and 20, and we've ruined the entire drive. And it's like, it was one mistake, but it just compounds it. Right. And I don't know if that's what's happening, where it's like it's focus, it's technique, it's running the right routes at the correct depth, so that you're where you need to be. That's the part to where, like, how are these slow starts happening? I'm not sure, because I'm concerned from a coaching standpoint, but we don't know. Is it also what the players not firing off the ball at the start of the game, and as to why?
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
and at the end of the day, I mean, we talk about these flow start, and I thought you were hitting it right on the head, Will, where it just takes one penalty where all of a sudden we're behind the chains.
Yeah.
It just takes one play that gets stopped, and we have now 2nd and long, and then all of a sudden you get an incomplete pass, and then what are we doing now? A lot of people, when look back at that Bills game, they say, "Oh my goodness, 37-3." But if you look, it was 16-0 at the half.
Yes.
There was parts where if we drove down the field,
Yes.
and then maybe Sam threw an interception, or maybe there was the fumble by Brian Robinson. All of a sudden, now they get the ball back and turn around. But we shut that offense down.
Yes.
And we were holding them to field goals. Same thing with the Chicago game.
Mm-hmm.
Before we blinked, we went 2 and out. We went 3 and out twice on offense, and they go up 10-0. I mean, if you spot anybody 10 points in the NFL, they should be able to work with that. But still, if we just like what I said in the Eagles game last year, the way we beat them was by keeping them off the field. That's what Chicago did to us. I mean, the fact that I still believe there was a little fatigue. They when I say that, Will, is because they stopped us, got our offense off the field, and their offense was on the field for most of that first half. That's what I meant. But I mean, we honestly, we don't have the offense that can sustain the 3 and outs. Like we need it's like that old car. You need, well, I don't know if you know about old cars, Nathan.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know, sometimes you got to kick it in. You got to warm that bad boy up.
And let it warm up for a little bit.
Bang on the front there, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's kind of like our offense right now. And it goes to your point about the O-line. You knew we were coming into this year with this rookie quarterback, with this second-year guy. This wasn't more of an issue for you guys. This wasn't something that you felt like you needed to address more, desperately. It goes back to all of it. But go ahead, Nate.
I think, and y'all said it earlier before you brought me on. I mean, we're only 5 games to the season. For all I know is like the next 5-6 games watched and we'll turn it around cohesively. Like I feel like, and I've noticed this for myself, and I'm learning to be better. I think there's no in between when we're our teams in terms of growth. It's like you have to be instantly clicking right off the bat, or it's just championship or bust. And I think when you look at Washington, like for this draft class, Emmanuel Forbes, when you look at the pick, I'm not mad at it, but there were better options. You look at Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, former linebackers in this league. The lack of developing linebackers since they've been here, that's
what linebackers?
Well, I'm just saying they haven't found that linebacker that can change the game. Right, so, like you said, I agree. I think we're kind of just there's too much settling, and I think kind of coming into the season, even under new ownership, well, what are our expectations? I think once Dan's going like, oh, okay, we're going to see a better team. It sometimes it just takes growth, but I am a little disappointed that I heard in the press conference Ron said they weren't going to change anything. I like to see some guys changed. For me, in the game against Chicago, for example, I don't think Emmanuel Forbes should have been on DJ Moore, because I was under the assumption at the beginning of the season Kendall Fuller was the quote-unquote number 1 corner, and then Brandon St. Juice, was number 2 guy, and Emmanuel was the nickel slot. And when they benched him, and I don't think that helps. That doesn't help a player's confidence, especially when you're going against probably probably a good tier receiver in the league, and then Kendall Fuller didn't do much of a job. You really there are some questions. So,
go
ahead, Will.
Yeah, so you're bringing up a great point about the front office and the philosophy that they took this offseason. And it relates to the offensive line and it relates to the defense as well in the secondary. You went into the season with a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. You bargain hunted for your 3 new offensive linemen, or your 2 new offensive linemen you brought in, and you promoted a guy who's been injured every single season he's been on the roster for the last 4 years. And you decided on defense, our problem was we didn't get enough turnovers. Well, yeah, you didn't, but you also need to be able – what is the league doing right now? This is an offensive league. And you said we need to put resources, our first 2 picks, into our defensive secondary to get more interceptions. They haven't produced more interceptions. You haven't changed anything. And in the end, you made your offense weaker by the decisions you made in the offseason by not saying we're going to pay money for offensive linemen or we're going to prioritize it in the draft and make Sean Spencer happy and draft his toothless wonder from North Dakota.
Cody Balk.
So it brings up, that's your point of like, they bring in a third corner who is also competing. He's an outside cornerback with St. Juice, who did well as an outside cornerback, who with Kendall Fuller, who was the best corner on the team last year, who's an outside. So now you're not filling the problem, which was the slot corner. You brought in an outside corner, and it's not working to produce the turnovers that you said would impact the offense. It's not working. Nothing is working.
Nothing.
That's another statement. Sorry, I'm not leading questions.
See, I was waiting for Nate to put on. What do you want me to say to that?
Sorry. So I got another question then for you. So since I kind of ended that conversation, I didn't mean to. Talk to me about Jack Del Rio. You've got some concerns about him. What are your concerns?
He's too complacent. Like I saw lack of like the only thing from the Bear game, like Chase Young, excuse me. But I remember got to the quarterback 11 times. The defensive line pretty much, I mean, for the most part, played well. I will say, averagely did well.
They had no help.
The rest, I didn't see any lack of adjustment. The only adjustment when they benched Emmanuel Forbes. That's it. I didn't see. They didn't try to get to Justin. They didn't try to, try to zone. They just stayed complacent. And again, I just feel like I don't want to say like it's this league's passed him by because I think he knows defense, but you're just not getting enough out of what you have on the defensive side of the ball, and that's discouraging.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give it. I believe he'll turn it around, but I'm just disappointed, especially these last 2 games, Philly and Chicago. Like they've just kind of been complacent. There's just no adjustment.
Well, I agree with you. The game plan against the Bears in the first half was to rush to contain Justin Fields. They didn't want his legs to beat them. And in turn, they got their secondary torched by it, which is certainly problematic. And it took them till halftime, after halftime, to change the game plan up. Like you said, the defensive line flipped a switch and started blitzing and putting pressure on Fields. And they started to get some momentum back. And if Joey Sly had made the field goal, which I also heard was a really bad snapback, and so the rhythm of everything got delayed. So exactly, had he made that kick, I think it would have been a 7-point game, and momentum would have been a whole lot. Momentum was already turning in the Commanders' favor, so the aggressive game plan started to work. But I'm with you where it took way too long for that to happen out there. And it's concerning for me with Jack Del Rio because let's not forget, this is a guy that won a Super Bowl for Peyton Manning with Denver. So it's not like I can't feel like the game has changed so much that he can't still be a good defensive coordinator, but he's got a track record here now in the 4th season of having a good defense, but not a great one.
Not a great one.
But my only concern about it is when do we start holding players accountable? When do we start asking? So Logan Paulson said this week on Ben Standing's podcast, Jack Del Rio has been running a man concept this year, not zone.
Yes.
He's running man defense in the secondary. In order for that to be successful, you have to have a pass rush. And Chase Young said after the game and even at halftime, don't look at Jack on this. This ain't Jack's fault. So when are we going to start holding those two handsomely paid defensive tackles and two outside guys that want to get handsomely paid this offseason? When are you guys going to do something? I'm tired of hearing first-round picks along the defensive line.
Yes.
When is the pressure? When are they going to show me that they're T.J. Watt, like Nick Bosa? When are you going to be that type of player?
Calais Campbell.
Who?
Calais Campbell. But.
Yeah. When are you going to be the type of player that makes plays on a weekly basis? Because that's also my concern. We spent all these resources on the defensive line, and we're not getting first-round pick returns.
I don't know. I just feel like I would hope this loss kind of woke everybody up from a player coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
And I thought after the loss to Philadelphia, I thought that would have motivated them to beat Chicago. And it just looked like a totally different team. And
well, let me interject on that real quick, because sure. I think I told you guys this. I thought the exact opposite. I thought we played so above our weight and so above our level in that game against Philly, and we took it to the wire against these guys, that I thought that we were going to come into this game kind of how some of the fans came into this game. Like, there is no shot for them to beat us. And that's why I say that they out-schemed us, because like Will was saying, we everybody outside of Washington talks about our front four and our D-line. But in this game, you saw it. JDR, they were scared of Justin Fields' legs. At a certain point in this ball game, they only had their fullback because their other running backs were hurt. And yet they were still running sweeps with Justin around the sides that would get those wide receivers open downfield. So it's frustrating, but like Will said, that those front four, they have to play like their paycheck that they're getting. They have to show up and show out. And we love Deron Payne, we love Jonathan Allen and what they've done, but in order for that man coverage, that man defense to work, those front four need to be creating absolute havoc in that backfield. And right now, it seems kind of passive.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth.
It's not duck season.
I mean, I can't even say that. I just need these guys to just wake the hell up.
Yes.
I mean, y'all like, sure, fans matter, but when you get trounced like that at home, that's embarrassing.
Absolutely.
And I didn't like when they asked Ron at halftime, well, what was the message? They just talk to each other.
Yeah.
What they talk about? If I'm Ron, I'm throwing chairs. I'm letting guys know, like, we're at home. Like, wake up. And
you want that Ron Rivera from our opening video that's saying, "Let's go."
Right. Yeah, we need that.
That's amping and jacking them up. Yeah, I agree.
But I do think it is a little. I do think it's a little. In my opinion, and yes, Ron does deserve some criticism, but particularly just on the national side of the media, I'm just not a fan of certain things that I'm hearing. It's just like he just doesn't look like he's all the way there. That's something I believe that was on First Take, if I'm hearing that segment correctly. Like, I believe there'll be a turnaround. Let's be patient. Like, if this was week 15, like last year, okay, the great example, the Carson Wentz choke game against Cleveland, okay, like if there was like one at that point in the season, then we got a strong argument. But I feel like it's best to get these issues out now. That way, down the stretch, it doesn't come back to bite us in the you-know-what.
Yeah. I know, like in the Sports Junkie said this week, I can't stand those guys that they feel Ron is checked out. It's hard to really make that argument, but it also doesn't look good when you're on the sidelines. Your team just gave up another touchdown in the first half, and all you're doing is standing there with your arms crossed. Like, can you show any type of friggin' life out there?
Yeah, I can't.
Like, you could be having a dialogue. I don't need you to be throwing your headset like Nick Saban does, but you could be talking to these guys. You don't need to just be sitting there with your arms crossed, stoic. Like, come on, dude. Let's put in a little bit more effort.
Just put some effort in there for sure. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I absolutely need some kind of excitement, some fire, some look like you're pissed off to what's going on, like all the fans feel. I said that last year when I went to Detroit for that game. And we're down 22-0, and he just is so calm and stoic. I don't need that. I don't. I need you to be throwing, like you're saying, throwing things. I need the Gatorade to be flying. I need these players doing up downs on the sidelines like they're in an Optimist League. I need something where they're like, oh my God, we're not going to mess up like this again. But you know what it honestly looks like? They look like they get paid, I get paid. So, I mean, I could tell them something, but I don't know if they're going to follow it. And maybe that's the point where you have to say, is it time?